The former military hospital, in which we're located tonight, became the residence of the police magistrate. However, the really significant point about the period 1851 to 1866 is that Novocastrians regularly used the former military barracks and its grounds for social and sporting purposes. It was here that the Newcastle Volunteer Rifles and Naval Brigade drilled. The barrack grounds were the scenes of church bazaars and cricket matches. Newcastle citizens came to enjoy ready access to this site, and they reacted with hostility to proposals to use the site in ways they feared would restrict or deny their access to it. In November of 1866, the Colonial Secretary's office informed the bench of magistrates that it proposed sending what it described as, quote, 100 incurables, unquote, from Tarban Creek Asylum to Newcastle. And it asked the magistrates, and I again quote, whether the inhabitants of Newcastle would be likely to raise any well-founded objections to the military barracks being occupied by inoffensive lunatics, unquote. But at a meeting at the courthouse, some 300 Novocastrians did indeed raise objections, well-founded and otherwise, to this proposal. And many of their complaints did reflect a deep-seated prejudice against the mentally ill, as well as a fear that locals were about to lose control of a site that had served a variety of community purposes since the departure of the military. One opponent described the barracks square as the only recreation ground the city contained. Another asked, where were our children to go? Where would our bands of hope go to? Where would our volunteers and our cricketers go if this proposal of the government were carried into effect? Well, the protests on this occasion forced the government to reverse its decision. But any satisfaction that Newcastle's civic and business leaders may have gained from this outcome proved short-lived. Worried about the increasing number of destitute children on the streets of Sydney, the New South Wales government decided in 1866 to establish an industrial school for girls in the former Newcastle barracks. Most of those who were sent here were under the age of 16, but by 1869 a portion of the former barracks had become a reformatory for older girls with criminal records. John Turner writes that the abandoned behaviour of the girls shocked the staid Newcastle community to its core. Few of the girls who were sent to Newcastle between 1867 and 1871 were willing meekly to accept their confinement. Approximately 80 of the 187 sent escaped. Not a bad shows initiative. Those recaptured were sent to solitary confinement in the former guards' house cells across the way to the east. In January and again in March of 1871, police were called to the school to quell riots. Senior Sergeant Lane described the girls as, and I quote, singing obscene songs, others cursing and swearing, others cutting up their beds and bedding and throwing it out the windows, others breaking the iron bedsteads, others also destroyed the chamber utensils, scattering the contents on the floors. Others stripped naked and danced in view of the street. Well, public outrage, moral indignation, I can assure you was the only emotion felt. Public outrage forced the government to close the school. The Newcastle Chronicle reported in May 1871 on the departure of the last of the girls. They were taken by omnibus to Queen's Wharf to board the vessel that was to take them to their new home at Cockatoo Island in Sydney. And the Chronicle tells us there was a large concourse of persons waiting to see them depart. Mixed feelings perhaps, which seemed to excite the girls considerably and to encourage them to sing some of their favourite songs. and bid a most lively adieu to their admirers. They were soon got below, but it was no easy task keeping them there, as every now and then they managed to find their way back on deck, probably to take a last fond look at the paradise they were leaving behind. Well, so much for the girls' reformatory.